You're listening to the Things You Don't Hear in Church podcast, a show where your hosts, Darian and Ethan, discuss the controversial topics often avoided by the church. They also discuss culture, society, and everyday goofs. And now, Darian and Ethan.
All right.
Welcome back, everybody.
I feel like I start every week with all right, and I need to figure out something else to say.
I don't know. I don't pay attention.
I don't love it. So this is weird, actually. Usually when we record, we have the music. We can hear the music going.
Yeah.
And right now it's in these headphones on the floor that we were using before.
I don't know how you heard it. You just
What?
started, and I was like, oh, I guess we're going.
Yeah, no, I was like, I just know. Well, I can also shift it over when we edit, but I also know that Ben says, "Now your hosts, Darian and Ethan," and then a beat drops, and I usually wait a second.
Oh, okay.
But then I realized, well, this is awkward. I'm just talking with silence right now. So
It's weird.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, the energy was not there from the
Yeah.
song. Whatever.
Maybe we should end it here.
All right, well, I hope you guys had...
Well, have a great day.
Yeah, bye.
No.
Anyways, go like and subscribe, leave comments, all that kind of stuff. We love hearing you guys talk on Instagram and all the comments, and I get a lot of DMs too. It's pretty fun. Today, we have a fun episode. We're excited for it.
A great episode about timely events.
Yep.
How long do you think you can circle around it without talking about it like Trump does? Today we have a great episode for you. Perhaps one of the greatest episodes of podcasts you've ever heard. This is a great podcast.
I've talked to all the experts.
I've talked to all the experts. And we can affirm that this podcast is very good. Very good podcast. We do have a podcast.
We've crunched all the numbers. It's the best. It's easily the best.
Get to the point.
There's no question.
Get to the point, bro. Yes, the podcast is the... Okay, so the podcast is about holidays.
How's your day been?
How's my day? Not my holidays.
Not your holiday,
My
but how's
day.
your day been?
My day's been real good, actually. Last week absolutely killed me.
Yeah.
Not absolutely, because I'm obviously alive.
Isaiah is the long book in the Bible.
Yeah, no, I was didn't finish my homework. I was about to do the last 3 assignments, and then I got done. I looked at the computer, closed the computer, and then realized there's nothing left inside to do this.
Yeah.
I went to sleep.
Nice.
So it's okay. I've never been to college, but I hear people do that in college. So
No, they don't, actually.
you think no one's missed an assignment in college?
Well, I mean, I didn't. But
Okay. Well, I can't all be Derry Brooks. I missed assignments in high school, bro.
nice. I didn't go to high school.
you went to your kitchen.
No, my bedroom. But.
It's been good. We've been in Matthew this week, so real fun. And then did first readings and whatnot. So I've done all my homework, and it's not even 6 p.m.
Crazy.
Good day. Very good day. How are you feeling?
Feeling pretty good. This is my last day here for about a week,
So
or
sad.
maybe 6 days. I'm going to a friend's wedding back in California, so I'm really, really excited. It's the first wedding I've ever been a part of, or been in. I've been a part of other weddings, but the first one I've ever been in, so I'm really stoked, actually.
Yeah, I was just thinking of Michael Scott, where it's I love inside jokes. I'd love to be a part of one.
So funny.
But no, that's super exciting, man. Weddings are a fun time.
I'm really excited.
I love weddings. I've had... No, just kidding.
I've had 3 or 4.
I've had 3 of them. They're great. I've been at a couple, and just as so much fun, just dancing and fooling around with your friends is that came out weird.
Yeah.
Hanging out with your friends and having a good time.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
It is fun. You know what? Weddings are fun.
This chair's broken.
Whatever. Weddings are a good time, though. I like them a lot. Yeah.
I'm excited for you. I'm going to miss you. I thought you left it later in the week. And this morning, you're leave tomorrow. I was oh. Okay.
What would you say, switching topics, what's the most interesting thing you didn't know from the BCC that you've learned so far? Or maybe just from last week?
Oh,
whatever you want.
Oh my gosh. Talk about the Bible.
There's a really weird historical fact that you didn't know.
Well, I guess one of the first things that really caught my attention that I was oh, this is a cool school, was realizing that the East is a term used in the Bible to talk about going away from God's presence.
Oh, interesting.
As ancient Near Eastern peoples thought that gods are geographic, right?
Yeah.
So they're oh, if Israel is on the west, they're on the coast. If I go to the east, God's not there. Yahweh's not there.
It's just like in real life. The West Coast is the best. When you go to the East, you're farther from God.
And so it's Jonah says he went to the city that he didn't like, and he was prophesying against it. It says he went and sat to the east of it, which basically is going away. He's mad about it and mad at God. So he's I'm out of here, bro. And then it says that God sent an east wind to send a message, and it's basically saying like you can't run away from God. And I was
Right.
like, that's so insanely cool.
Yeah, it's super interesting. 'Cause
And-
he runs from God the whole book, and then
Yeah.
at the end, you never think about him like running. He's just going to watch the destruction,
Right.
but he's actually like
He's
running
still-
from God again.
At the very end, he's still like, I don't want this to happen.
Right.
I'm like, oh, come on, Jonah.
Jonah's a great book.
But yeah, it's amazing. It speaks to me a lot in different ways. But
Yeah.
I think also just understanding the historical context of so much of like the readers of the Bible. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, because there's a part in Isaiah where God says like something about how He can destroy man and soul in hell, or in general, man and soul, like spirit and man. And he's like, I can destroy all of it. And then Jesus in the New Testament says, don't fear the man who can destroy the body, and that's it, but fear God who can destroy both body and soul in hell. And like all the original readers probably would have thought back to like Israel or Isaiah and been like, oh shoot, he's referencing the Old Testament, which I never picked up on. And I don't know if it would technically be an Old Testament reference because it's just a saying, but I was just like, okay, shoot.
Yeah. I heard today you guys talked about the silence period.
Yeah, the intertestament.
Yeah, 500 years.
Which is super fun too, because you find out about Alexander the Great was like the reason they were like the Greeks were over there, and then the Rome came after them.
Yep.
So super fun. Not a lot has been ever. I think that's the first time I've ever been taught about intertestament.
Really?
Times.
Well, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really cool writings that happened then as well.
Yeah. It makes me want to look and dive into history even more.
Yeah. Like the main things I want to read are all the extra biblical books that people think could be biblical books, and some of those were written during that time period too.
Yeah.
And then also the extra books written in that time period as well would be very interesting to read.
Yeah. I mean, I have the Apocrypha if you want it.
Yeah. No.
Okay. Well, you can't have it.
Also, it's free online.
Good for you.
And on YouTube, I can listen to it.
I think that's a wonderful thing.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like one of the subjects that interests me the most is like if books in our Bible, like if the books that we took out like should actually be in there.
Me too,
or books
bro.
that we added like shouldn't be in there. It's so interesting.
Me
when
too.
There's like so much political history with Rome in the early church with like what books were taken out and stuff, and so many like political reasons. It's so interesting to look into.
Right. Same. I love it. I think to myself all the time, like, wait a second. Why aren't these scripture?
Right.
Like, Jesus grew up reading them, and all the apostles read them. So why are you telling me I can't read them? I'm like, something's afoot here.
Yeah.
I was going to pick up my foot and show the camera.
And that doesn't mean we think those books are biblical. It just means it's interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, I was thinking this morning. This has nothing to do with what we were just talking about, but we were in worship and prayer, and I was thinking about the scripture says that. What's it say? I just forgot it. I was thinking about it right before the show. That the same power that raised Christ Jesus from the dead is alive inside of us. And I was just thinking about the reality of that. Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
Like, the Spirit of God is inside of me. Like, I'm like, whoa, like, that's if you really think, like, I've always heard it as a Christian, but never really, like, thought about it. But if you really think about it, like, you think about the magnitude and power of God in His throne on heaven, and they're like, wait, He's inside of me?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, makes me really want to steward my life a lot better than.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
I'm like, oh gosh.
Yeah. It's wild.
Yeah, I just want to share that. Maybe someone needed to hear that.
Yes.
Don't know who that was for.
It wasn't me, but maybe someone else. I already know the power of God resides inside
The power
of
of
me.
God is inside of you. Okay? That doesn't mean we can get a whole
Now that
challenge.
means you can do
what
like whatever you want supernaturally.
you can do what you want.
Because the power of God's inside of you.
I used to think that.
I'm kidding. Just in case anybody
We can
didn't
get
that.
back. We can get my
Ethan
testimony
didn't laugh, and that was supposed to be the cue that it was a joke. There you go.
I got you. But yeah, let's jump in, shall we?
Let's jump in the deep end. I'm excited for this week's episode.
That's a song. You know that song, Deep End? I'm about to go off the deep end.
Yeah.
I thought that was Lecrae. Lecrae made a remix off of it. It's like not his
really?
song. Or the vice versa. But like I heard that and I was like, this is Lecrae.
What album is that off? Is that like the last
It's his
one he
most
did?
recent one.
Really?
Mhm.
I'm about to go off the deep.
Yeah.
That's like the only hook in the album I liked.
I didn't listen to the album.
I listened to like half of it.
I lost faith in cray.
What's the song from? Like, whose song is it?
I don't know. We can look it up.
Well, I thought it was John Legend.
Maybe. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it is. Let's not.
I
look it up.
know nothing.
It's not important.
We need a fax machine. Where are you at?
Yeah,
Trademark
Riley,
from
we're
Trey.
excited for you to get here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Trey Kennedy joke. Go watch it.
So today we're talking about like a very timely episode. Last year, crazy. We've been doing this podcast for over a year.
What?
Awesome. But last year we did a podcast episode on Halloween and if Christians should celebrate Halloween. Can't speak.
There you go.
And I would say I still agree with that episode. In synopsis, it was like there's nothing inherently bad about candy, but
Except for the fact that it kills you slowly with poison from sugar.
yeah, sometimes quickly. But it was more about how demonically influenced the holiday is.
Yeah.
And all of the pagan backgrounds with it. And not only that, but we also read out a quote from like one of the leading Satanists of the day, one of the leading like people in the witch community, and he talked about how like he loves that like anybody of every religion will actively like come together for one day a year to like worship Satan.
Yeah.
Even if they don't realize it, like that's what the holiday was created for. And so by participating in that, you also further their cause. It was very interesting.
Yeah, it's very concerning.
Don't have to agree with us, but like that, when I read like that article that he wrote about Christians celebrating Halloween from like his Satanist perspective, it hit me hard. And so, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I don't.
Go listen to our last year's podcast on that if you'd like more information. But
Yeah.
this year we're going to be talking more about holidays in general.
Yeah, broad spectrum.
Right? Like what?
Specifically like pagan holidays,
Yeah.
right?
What holidays can you redeem if you can?
Yeah, so like to round it out more, the topic's going to be should Christians redeem pagan holidays that we already celebrate as a country, right?
Right.
And so this will be like the world pretty much celebrates these holidays like more or less or knows about them. Majority in the West celebrates these holidays,
Yeah.
but definitely some places in Asia too like to observe them, especially as like the world becomes more globalized. They become much more popular everywhere because most people in America celebrate them. They see that on the news or on social media or something, and then they also want to celebrate it. So these really are somewhat global holidays, right? We're talking about holidays like Halloween, Valentine's Day is a huge one. New Year's actually is a pagan holiday, and New Year's.
I like New Year's. Don't say that.
New Year's is like you'd think that's the most innocent one. It's just like the turning of the year, but it actually does have a lot of pagan backgrounds.
Don't tell me that.
And that one isn't as like universal of one because there's lots of different New Years per whatever culture you live in, right?
Yeah.
Chinese New Year, there's all a whole bunch of different kinds of New Years.
Wait, how is New Year's pagan? I've never heard that.
I did a lot of research on it, but I don't know all of the information, so I don't want to share.
Okay.
Because I don't know everything about it. I don't want to
Yeah,
give
that's
out
okay.
anything wrong.
I mean, there is a questionable idea, like when people celebrate.
It was just another
New Year's.
festival, but
Right.
that was a pagan festival that symbolized the new year, and
Yeah.
so that was
And
the origin of it.
God had his own year that he marked out for his people in the
Yeah.
Bible. And obviously we're not Jews, so it's different. But there is like, he's like, they got New Year's, I'm going to give you your own New Year, so
Right.
you will honor me and not fall into sin.
Right.
Yeah.
Super interesting. And so today we're going to be talking about should Christians try to redeem these holidays, right? Of course, it doesn't seem like there's anything inherently bad, like right off the bat, about these holidays. When you read into them, you realize, like, oh, like, you want to explain, like, the Easter one that's super interesting?
Okay. Prepare to get upset, Christians. So
Easters.
its foundation was Ishtar. That's where we get the word Easter.
Ishtar.
Kind of comes from Ishtar. And what's crazy is about Ishtar.
Mic stand just came off. Just put it back on real
What's
fast.
crazy about Easter? I'm
Just
gonna
keep
hold it
I'll
here.
put it back on.
I'm gonna hold it here until. No, you can. It's fine. I'll just fix it when you're. I can. Okay. Well, here we go. These plastic tables killing me. Easter is formed after Ishtar, like I said, but with Ishtar worship, it came from what a guy. Thank you so much. That thing's not moving ever.
Never.
We're never having that problem again.
All right, keep going.
So funny. Ishtar was a Babylonian goddess, and it was believed that she would come down to earth in the form of a bunny and lay an egg. and then all her people would go out and search for this egg, and that's historically why we have Easter egg hunts.
What the egg do?
It represented like fertility and stuff
okay.
like that. It's because it's in the spring, so it's like new life.
Yeah.
And so that's why they believe. That's why the Easter bunny's there, and he has eggs. And we were talking earlier about it, and I was like, the fact that like this is in churches, is
They have these at
like,
churches.
Like this is a full-on Babylonian pagan idolatrous practice that Christians have in their churches that they promote and love, and they think it's cute.
Yeah.
And I'm like, guys, that's actual idolatry.
Right.
Like, we can make a case for iPhones being idolatrous and like Instagram and how you have that. Look, this is actual historic idolatry.
Yeah.
You are actually participating in a form of worship that was specifically given or created for the purpose of celebrating Ishtar.
Yeah.
On her day. And I'm like, stop.
At least for other holidays, we mask it a little bit, but this one there's just no mask at all.
I'm like, guys,
the same exact thing.
What is happening, man? Like,
history's crazy, right? We forget so fast, like where we come from, and like
nothing's new under the sun, man.
Yeah,
we just find new ways to act dumb. I heard that in a rap once.
Do you remember? In what century we like Christianized that holiday?
I would assume it was
remember.
when we can look it up. Fax machine.
It's very interesting.
I don't have two hands to type that fast, so I'm not going to worry about it. I don't know what year.
Okay.
But like I would assume it would be somehow similar to how Saturnalia became like Christmas, or like that's what people think.
Right.
There's some questions there as to whether or not that's actually legit.
Mm-hmm.
That was around when Rome became a Catholic nation.
Oh, right.
And so they're like, hey, we don't serve these things anymore, so stop it, or just do it differently.
Right.
But yeah, like, and I'm down to celebrate the resurrection. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm super down to celebrate Jesus rising from the dead.
Right.
I would probably say I celebrate it every day by living in sanctification towards him, and just living my life honoring him.
Yeah, we can definitely have a day.
Yeah, you can have like a special observance for it, right? But whenever I see Christians with like Easter eggs and bunnies,
we at least gotta change the name.
What are you? Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like, I like when they say Resurrection Sunday. I'm like, cool, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But also it's confusing because he said he died on Friday and he's supposed to be in the ground for 3 days. And Tuesday we're gonna, or I mean not Tuesday. I was thinking of 2 days. Sunday we're gonna be here.
Yeah.
And 2 days went by, or 1.5 days. I'm like, this dude's still in the ground, bro.
Technically, it'd probably be like that night for like the time zone.
And then there's like a whole thing about how the Jews would do their days. It'd be like evening, so it'd be like it was weird, but yeah. I'm like, guys, come on, what are we doing? Get this egg out of here.
What are we doing?
Get this.
We're trying to hide this at all.
You're actually paying money for this guy to dress up as a mascot and hide eggs.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to do that at your own house, I'm not gonna tell you how to live your life. I'm like, church, why are you wasting your money? You could like go feed the poor or something like that.
Yeah.
But I probably made a lot of people mad just now.
Whatever.
Sorry.
At least we could change it a little bit. Like Resurrection Sunday is a great one.
Yeah.
And I've seen some churches call it that.
Yeah.
But the point of this is we're trying to see if it's okay to Christianize or redeem for Christ these pagan holidays, right? Because I would say like the mindset of someone who like sees a pagan holiday in like the original people and said like, we want to take this and like make it a Christian holiday or something, right? I would imagine their mindset, maybe it wasn't, but I imagine now like their mindset would be like, I'm going to take this and redeem it for Christ and take something that was like glorifying the enemy and get rid of it and like make it glorify God now, right? Which is, I think would be sort of like the heart kind of behind it. You have a thought?
I think there can be people who are like that, who are like, oh, this was bad. We want to honor God, so we're going to change it. But I do also think at the same time, there's people who are like, ooh, I really don't want to give this up because it's really fun. So how close to doing it can I do it without actually doing it?
That's true.
So obviously it depends on each person's heart, and that's for between them and God. But yeah, I think it'd be a question like, okay, look at the certain practices and see what you do or don't do, right?
Yeah.
Part of Saturnalia that people say has become Christmas, which there, like I said, is disagreements about that in itself. Part of it used to be like sex parties, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
We don't do that anymore.
Right.
That's a good thing.
Right.
We shouldn't do that.
Yeah, we got rid of those practices.
Yeah. But there's, and like we still need to get rid of a lot of practices. For instance, like the practice of getting drunk on these holidays should not be. I don't think many Christians would do that, but by and large, the culture.
Yeah, it's very much the culture of those.
And so,
holidays. St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, well, St. Pat, that's a hallmark holiday to celebrate alcohol. I don't know, actually. I have never looked at the history of St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
I'm Irish though. So.
It's St. Patrick.
What?
It's St. Patrick. He was
Yeah,
a great, he was a
wasn't
great
he a
person.
Christian though?
What?
Wasn't he a Christian?
Yeah. I mean, it's a good holiday.
You're this Christian hero of history, and to celebrate him by getting drunk.
Yeah.
Ironic.
Yeah. So kind of moving forward, if we're just talking about like the streamline of these holidays and them being pagan, right?
Yeah.
And sort of having like wanting to have a good heart for redeeming them, and talking about if that's okay or if that's something that we should do as Christians, I would say the main objection usually brought up, like one of the main like points made to say we shouldn't redeem these holidays. The one that I've heard the most, and I would say is the most talked about, is in Deuteronomy 12.
Yep.
Deuteronomy 12:2-3, and I'll read it really fast. And for example, like for some context right now, the Israelites are going and crossing the Jordan into like Canaanite countries, and they're like taking over these villages and like living there now and taking like the plunder of the cities and stuff like that. And they have lots of like idols and lots of altars and like very like rare and expensive things that are hard to make and get. Right? They have a lot of precious metals in them and stuff like that. It takes a lot of like laborious time to make these things. And so they're taking these things for themselves and just like crossing out or like taking off the idols from them and like putting God on them, right? Or making sacrifices to God on these idols or on these altars, right? For worship to like Baal and all these like different gods. So that's like the context, and I'll read you the word of the Lord to them. And this is Deuteronomy 12, 2 and 3. Destroy completely all the places where the nations that you are driving out worship their gods. On the high mountains, on the hills, and under every green tree. Tear down their altars, smash their sacred pillars, burn their Asherah poles, cut down the carved images of their gods, and wipe out their names from every place. Don't worship the Lord your God this way. Instead, turn to the place the Lord your God chooses from all your tribes to put his name for his dwelling and go there. Right? Mm-hmm. So he's saying, don't go into these places and take these things and the ways and the practices that these foreign people worship their gods as, especially like the actual altars that they worship them on.
Right.
And don't worship me on those. That's not where I've told you to worship. Specifically in verse 5, it says, don't do it there. Go to where I have set up for you to worship and go and worship me there. Right?
And God always says something about God. He knows that his people are going to be around these nations where this idolatry and this stuff is going to be taking place. And because of that, he says, hey, I'm going to give you ways to worship me on these days or around these times, so you're not tempted to fall away from me, you know? And so God has ways that he wants to be worshipped. And the main thing that's saying is like, hey, don't worship me the way you think you should. And that goes into so much about Christian living. Like, that sentence, don't worship God the way you think you should, but worship God the way he wants to be worshipped. That goes into so much about like the whole Christian's life in general and every day, but specifically for holidays today.
Someone could argue that this was just for the Israelites, and especially because they had a specific place to worship God that he had given them. And now we have the Holy Spirit and we can worship him wherever. But let me read verse 30 really fast. So this is the same chapter. It just goes on for a little bit. And then in verse 30, it says, be careful not to be ensnared by their ways. Still talking about the Canaanites. Mm-hmm. After they have been destroyed before you. Do not inquire about their gods, asking, how did these nations worship their gods? I'll also do the same. I think that like makes it a little more clear, right? It's just clearly saying it's not about the place necessarily. It's about how you're worshiping these gods. I want you to worship the way I've set up for you to worship, not the way that these people, imitating how they worship their gods, right? And so I wouldn't say, I mean, I think I have said before, and I flip-flopped on this issue of should we redeem pagan holidays before. I used to be just of the mindset like this verse clearly laid out like we shouldn't ever. But I think I flip-flopped back and forth and thought about it a little more. At the very least, like in my opinion, at the very least, you have to say like you got to change it. Yeah. Like it's very clear here that like say you replace us with Israel and like the people that are pagan like worshiping in these pagan holidays as the Canaanites, and we go in and we try to like put these here for God, like sort of sacrificing on the altars of the Canaanites, aka like doing Easter bunny things on Easter, right? Like you gotta change it at least a little bit, right? Like say it's gonna be the same day or something. You can't use the altars that the Canaanites had to sacrifice to God, right? He tells you specifically, don't worship me in the way that these other gods were worshipped by the Canaanites, right? You have something you want to say about that?
Yeah, relating it to modern day, like you were doing. I'm specifically thinking about in Thailand. In Thailand and Cambodia, there's this holiday where they go, I forgot what it's called because I don't speak their language, but you go around and you throw water on each other.
It's a fantastic holiday.
Like you run around, you got water balloons and water guns, and like the whole nation is like in a giant water fight.
Imagine just driving like around downtown, wherever your city is, and people are just like hosing each other down in trucks. Yeah. You're driving around the back of trucks, just throwing water balloons at whoever you want to. It's all just legit. Like everybody's in on it.
Yeah, everyone's having fun and everyone's enjoying it. What it means for them in their culture is they're like, we're celebrating that this is the day that our sins are forgiven. Like they're by their gods or whatever, their spirits that will look over them. In their minds, the historical context behind that is like, oh, we're being forgiven sins. And they think their sins have to be forgiven every year. Now, for a Thai Christian or a Cambodian Christian coming out of that, what would be really cool is that you could still, I would say, participate in that, not in the same way, obviously, but you would change it to where your church would have mad baptism, right?
Right.
Where you you could go out and preach the gospel. That's like such a good time to preach the gospel because you can talk to them about, talk to them about like, hey, like you do this every year to forgive sins. What if I told you you can get forgiven sins once and then never worry about sin the rest of your life?
Right.
And then they would be like, what?
Right.
You know, and it'd be a great time for evagelism for their communities. And also the churches there to be like, we're having a huge baptism party. We're going to we're going to get people who've never been baptized to get them baptized. And it'd be amazing. You could have really cool redemption in that and still have you still feel like you're not just sitting at home bored out of your mind.
Right.
You know? So I think that would be okay to redeem because I don't think the act of throwing water on someone's inherently wrong. Their mindsets are wrong on it. And so if you bring the right mindset, you can still baptize. Now, if you speak tongues, translate that, let us know.
Yeah, let us know what that meant. That's probably that's a nug right there. We need that back.
Yeah. But I was going to say, if then we go into the subject of full water baptism versus splashing on a tangent there, and I have no opinions on.
Yeah. The Pope squirt gunning you from across the room because COVID. So funny.
That's ridiculous.
It's so interesting, like talking about this topic because neither you or me necessarily has like a hardline belief. I don't think. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
Of like we can't redeem any holiday or we should redeem all of them, right?
Right.
I don't necessarily think like it's a great idea to try to redeem the holidays, but I'm also not like super mad about a lot of them if it's done right. There's obviously like a right way to do it, and we haven't done it the right way almost every time.
Humans are very bad at getting things right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like almost every time it's happened, we haven't done a right job, right? But I think there is ways to do it. But like in the same vein of that, I don't think like by you like laying out eggs and like your kids picking them up that like each egg is like a demon. And like the kids like just getting a whole bunch of demons in it by like picking up the egg.
Our kids are not hanging out. I'll tell you that.
I'll tell you right now.
So, you go over to Derry's house, you punch him in the face.
It'll be an experiment. It'll be an experiment. We'll see how my kids turn out.
We'll see which kids are more holy.
So I wouldn't promote that idea, and I wouldn't do it. But I don't think it is as inherently like demonic as, and I'm not like afraid of it. You know what I mean? Do I think that it's an image of how to worship like that god of Ishtar? Yeah, it clearly is. Right. And so I don't want to do that. No,
you just probably shouldn't do it.
Yeah, Deuteronomy 12:30 says exactly not to do that.
You need to stop.
Yeah. I don't think there's inherently demons in like the Easter eggs they're picking up, but I wouldn't do it because obviously like worshiping a god, right? That's not God.
And it would be concerning, like questioning like what agreements are you making that are giving access into your life?
Yeah.
You know, the Bible says a lot about don't give the enemy a foothold, like in any regard.
Right.
And so then that'd be a question like, okay, well, what implications is this having in my spiritual journey?
And of course, like you said before, like Jesus' death and resurrection deserves to be like observed, right, and remembered, and he deserves to be worshipped for those things. Now, does that mean we can still do it on that day? We just change the practices? I would say you probably could. Maybe change the name and don't do eggs and stuff like that.
Use crosses.
Yeah, use crosses.
Hide crosses.
Just hide crosses. Find
Like,
them.
get redeemed for candy. If I was at a church that did that too, I'd also be like, "That's just lame.
That's a
I'm
little
leaving.
weird. Yeah.
I'm going home, bro."
Or like I'm almost still uncomfortable with the same day. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
totally fine. We do it the next day. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, but I'm also not that worried about it. Like I still am gonna like Resurrection Sunday, still gonna like participate. You know what I mean? I'm still gonna love it. Still gonna like have a good time and all those things, right? Still gonna have like a great lunch.
You know what you could do?
What?
For Resurrection Sunday, you could have some Resurrection Sundays and have ice cream cones that you dip in chocolate and bring
Nice.
out, bro.
There
They
you
got
go.
dipped, they went down, they got resurrected.
Oh, there you go.
And they'd be like,
I like
we
this
got some
idea.
ice cream. And now some people might think, that is, what's that word where you make blasphemy? Where you make something that's supposed to be holy unholy?
What? No.
They'd be like, don't do that. Well, I mean, I had an idea one time for a Christmas communion to be cookies and milk, and I got shot down.
Why?
We had older people in our congregation, so they're like, we don't know if the traditional people will like that.
That would be
So I
fantastic.
was like, yo, this is a great joke.
Have we done an episode on communion yet?
Oh, we haven't.
I think we have. Okay, anyways, it's not important. So I would say just like on my own accord and like my own belief, there are some holidays you can redeem and some that you shouldn't, but it's all going to be case by case, and it's going to be like you using wisdom. And it's really hard to talk about because like we love having fun, and our culture has some really fun holidays that are pagan. You know what I mean?
You know, the Bible says sin is fun for a season. So
Yeah.
So there
like,
you go, Derry.
These things are fun. Like we love to do all these things, and I think we could do all of the, a lot of the practices on different days or in different ways with different names, and they
Right.
still be fun. Like
And-
there's nothing wrong about dressing up and handing out candy. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
fun. And on a different day of the year, it might be a little weird, but it's still fun.
It's November 1st. Yep. Well, 24 hours and missed it.
Yeah.
What would be really fun too is looking at like the feast that God outlines in the Bible.
Mhm.
Like a lot of those like feasts of the Lord. I don't want to call them Jewish holidays because it sounds restrictive to just Jewish culture.
Yeah.
But the feasts of the Lord outlined in the Bible, in one regard, they say they will be celebrated forever, and then Jesus never says anything about it. So that means that like we should like you have to, but should in a way of it'd be good for our spirituality, I think.
Yeah.
But also because they seem so dang fun.
Yeah.
Like a lot of them back then were like, okay, sacrifice this and do that, and now we don't sacrifice because
Right.
we have Jesus as our sacrifice now. But imagine like just getting together with all your friends and family, having a huge feast,
Yeah.
and then just like talking about sharing testimonies about like here's what Jesus did in my life, here's
It'd be
what I've
fun.
seen Jesus do this year, and remembering, and then like having times of like preaching the gospel and then worshiping and praying for each other, and like oh my gosh, how that would knit together communities.
Yeah.
Like you just had your church members over, your Bible study over, or whatever. Maybe your neighbors you invite over, and you just share like, here's how God's changed my life, or we're just gonna have a dinner and enjoy it, and then have a bonfire after. Bro, I can't wait till I own my own house and I can put on events like that.
Yeah, it'd be so fun to like do those holidays, like find out what they did, what they ate, and then celebrate those as well. It'd be really, really interesting.
It'd be really ironic if you brought like bacon to that, because God didn't allow his people to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
He'd
We
be
have
like,
freedom of Christ.
what's that? You're just gonna bring bacon to my party?
It
You
would
can
be
get
fun.
some mistletoe by Justin Bieber.
So I would say
a little notification dropped up on my screen.
for like Halloween specifically, because that's the one coming up in a couple of days.
Right.
I think Halloween, just in my own conviction, shouldn't be celebrated as Halloween. I think it's one of the ones that is not necessarily good to redeem. Now, that's more in a sense of redeeming with the culture. I don't necessarily have a giant problem with churches having localized like harvest festivals, right? Like one, name is changed. Two, usually there aren't like demonic or scary costumes, right? Mostly just stuff from pop culture. Usually, like at least the church I grew up in, like didn't allow those kind of costumes and stuff like that.
Right.
So you're not glorifying Satan. There's usually some kind of like gospel presentation or some kind of like sharing of the gospel and something like that. So it's obviously Christ-centered. They've stripped away like all of the parts about it that are about Halloween and like worshiping of like the dead and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It made it about Christ. Now the only similarity is that it's going to be on the same day, which I wouldn't necessarily say is
That's
terrible.
not a terrible idea because
Yeah.
the Jews had their New Year around the same time that other cultures had New Year,
Yeah.
but God showed them how to
Right.
celebrate it in their way.
Right. And so I'd say because all of those aspects are stripped away, it could be an okay alternative, right? And it could be okay to do.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too upset about that.
There's not demons in the candy and
Right.
candy and stuff like that.
Like I said, candy's not inherently evil.
Yeah.
You're still giving your kid the chance to dress up and hang out with their friends.
Yeah.
You're doing it in a way that's promoting the gospel.
Right.
And you're not having affiliated with Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
Now people will say, you're affiliated with Halloween because you're dressing up. And I'm like, okay, should I never have a costume party ever then?
Right.
Because get on then, because I want to do that.
Right. And, wow, I lost my train of thought right as I said that. What was I going to say? Oh, a better idea than having an harvest festival, if you don't have kids, is just go out and share the gospel and eat candy, in the community. Already participate in the festivities that are going on, outside. You don't have to, necessarily participate, but, go to them, and you can share the gospel and, what you think about the holiday and stuff like that to the people around you, right?
Yeah.
And you can eat candy. If there's candy there while you're sharing the gospel, that's even better.
Why not?
You know what I mean? Candy and sharing the gospel.
That
sounds like my two favorite things.
That's his favorite world.
And so I think you could do both of those things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well,
Yeah.
I like it. I don't necessarily have any thoughts to share that are against it in any way. Do you have anything else you want to add?
I mean,
Any
just
closing
to
remarks?
sum everything up, I would say there isn't necessarily a hard line, right? I think it's going to be a law on conviction. As long as you take the words in Deuteronomy seriously and don't make it about, oh, well, I really want to do this, so I'm going to, and you more go with your conscience and as well as following the words of Deuteronomy and what God spoke to the children of Israel in context of where you live now.
Right.
And you apply those well without what you really want to do, I think it can be fruitful and you can see fruit from it, right? And you can still have fun.
I agree.
And you can celebrate the Lord, and you could sort of redeem certain holidays. I think it could be okay. You know what I mean? But I think it's not a hard and fast line for everybody. It's going to look different for a lot of people, and it's going to be a lot about convictions. But also, it's going to be something that I forgot. I don't know.
It's going to be up to the individual to decide on what they think. Yeah. Well, with that,
that was fun.
Thanks for listening. Once again, go on YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, iTunes, Facebook, TikTok soon, I think.
Yep, TikTok soon.
All those places. Share this with your friends. Share this with your pastors. Share it with whoever you want, whoever you think needs it.
We created this podcast so that people that are struggling with their faith and questions about their faith could come to have those questions answered. So they can reach out to us individually, or they can find the question that they're struggling with in one of our podcasts. And if we don't have a podcast about it, then they can ask us and we can do one on it, or we can help them individually.
Yeah.
That's the main reason we started it. We want to see people who are struggling to find their answers. And so that's why we keep doing what we're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So with that, have a great day. Have a great week. And we'll see you guys next week. We have a really exciting show next week, so make sure you tune in.
Adios, amigos.